The ranch sat alone at the edge of the red plains, where the land cracked like old scars and the wind carried memories no one dared speak aloud. And to most men, it looked like nothing more than an easy mark. A weather-beaten house, a leaning barn, a single corral, and no sign of hired guns or watchtowers. But what the raiders didn't know was that the silence around the ranch wasn't weakness. It was respect, earned long before blood was ever spilled there. Because the man who lived on that land, Elias Crow, was not rich, not famous, and not young. Yet his presence bent the land in ways that couldn't be explained by fences or rifles. The raiders came at dusk, 6 of them, faces wrapped in dust-stained cloth, horses snorting with impatience, rifles loose in their hands, laughter sharp and careless as they talked about fire, about taking what little the ranch had, about how no one would come looking. And as they rode closer, the first thing they saw wasn't the house or the barn, it was the hide, stretched wide and nailed carefully to the fence line, pale as moonlight, unmistakable even from a distance. A white buffalo hide, unscarred, unburned, whole, and in that instant the laughter died like a candle in a storm. The lead raider pulled his horse hard, eyes wide, breath catching in his throat, because every man raised on the plains knew the stories, and even those who mocked them never forgot what a white buffalo meant. It was not hunted, not taken, not displayed unless gifted or earned through something greater than violence. And the hide hanging there wasn't a trophy. It was a warning, a declaration, and the wind seemed to hush as if listening. One raider whispered that they should turn back. Another spat and said it was just superstition. But none of them moved forward, because fear doesn't always shout sometimes. It settles into the bones and locks the hands. And that's when the door of the ranch house opened, slow and deliberate, and Elias Crow stepped out. Tall despite his age, hair silvered by time, eyes steady as still water, carrying no rifle, no pistol, only a walking stick carved with symbols none of the raiders could read. And his voice carried across the yard without effort as he asked why men, who had already lost their way, wished to lose their lives too. The raiders raised their guns, but none fired, because something in the old man's gaze stripped them of their hunger for violence. And when Elias spoke of the hide, how it had been given to him decades earlier by a people he had saved, not with bullets but with mercy, the air grew heavy, and one by one the raiders felt the truth settle in. This ranch wasn't undefended. It was protected by a debt older than their greed. And as shadows stretched long across the land, distant hoofbeats echoed, not rushed, not angry, but certain, and the raiders realized too late that the stories were real. And if you want to know what happens when fear meets consequence, when greed meets legend, and when a single symbol can stop bloodshed cold, make sure you stay with this story and subscribe to the channel, because what comes next is not just survival, it's reckoning. The hoofbeats grew louder, steady like a drumbeat from the earth itself, and the raiders turned in every direction, rifles trembling now not from excitement but dread. As riders emerged from the horizon, dozens of them, silent, disciplined, faces painted not for war but for judgment. And the lead raider dropped his gun before Elias Crow even lifted a hand, because surrender was no longer a choice, it was instinct, carved deep into human memory when faced with something greater than force. Elias did not smile, did not gloat, because men like him understood that power didn't need to be loud, and when he spoke, his words cut deeper than bullets as he reminded the raiders that the land remembers every step taken on it, every scream, every mercy, and the white buffalo hide was not a threat, but a promise that those who respected life would be protected, and those who came only to take would leave with less than they arrived. The riders circled the raiders without touching them, not a blow struck, not a rope thrown, because the punishment was not death, but shame. And Elias ordered them to ride away on foot, horses taken, weapons left behind, pride stripped bare under the wide sky. And as they staggered into the plains, broken not in body, but in spirit, the silence returned to the ranch like an old friend. Later that night, Elias stood alone by the fence, fingers brushing the white hide, remembering the starving winter when he had shared his last food with a wounded boy from a tribe others feared, remembering how kindness planted seeds that grew into protection stronger than walls. And as dawn broke, the riders vanished back into legend. The ranch still standing, untouched, unburned, alive, a testament to the truth that mercy travels further than violence ever could. And if this story moved you, if you believe legends are born from choices, not myths, subscribe to the channel. Because there are more stories like this waiting to be told. Stories where courage isn't loud, justice isn't rushed, and a single act of humanity can echo across generations. Morning came slow and pale over the ranch, the kind of dawn that felt like the land itself was catching its breath after a long night of judgment. And Elias Crow stood near the fence long after the riders had vanished, watching the light spill across the white buffalo hide as if the sun itself recognized its meaning, because this was not just a ranch that had been spared. It was a lesson carved into the plains, and word of that lesson began to travel faster than any rider could carry it. Within days, whispers moved through nearby towns, through saloons and trading posts, where men spoke more quietly than usual about how a gang of hardened raiders had walked into the desert without horses or weapons, how none of them dared look back, and how the old ranch at the edge of nowhere was now a place people avoided, not out of fear alone, but reverence. Travelers passing near the land slowed their wagons, removed their hats, and offered small gestures of respect, because something ancient had been awakened there, and even those who didn't believe in signs could feel the weight of it pressing against their chests. Elias went back to his simple routines, mending fence posts, feeding livestock, repairing the barn. But the quiet was different now, thicker, as if the land itself was standing guard. And one evening, a small group arrived, not with guns but with gifts, dried meat, woven cloth, and a carved talisman placed gently at the base of the fence, a silent confirmation that the bond sealed long ago was still alive. Elias accepted none of the praise, because he knew the truth most men forget, that mercy is not weakness, and respect earned once can guard you for a lifetime. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, he looked toward the open plains and allowed himself a rare, tired smile, knowing that when he was gone, the story would remain, carried by wind and word, warning the cruel and sheltering the just. And as this chapter of the legend closes, remember this: some defenses are made of wood and steel, but the strongest ones are built from choices, from kindness given when it costs the most. And if stories like this remind you that real power doesn't always fire a shot, subscribe to the channel, because more legends of courage, consequence, and quiet strength are waiting just beyond the horizon.